Hundreds of inmates, barefoot and stripped down to white shorts, scurry into El Salvador's new. With a highly produced speech to police, President Nayib Bukele celebrating the massive prison's opening.
Inside this mega prison, you'll find some of El Salvador's most dangerous gang members packed into massive cells.
MS-13 is one of the biggest gangs in El Salvador. But what happens when these members are caught? In the country's prisons, they face harsh conditions and stringent controls. Violence among inmates is rampant, and authorities struggle to maintain order. Despite efforts at rehabilitation, many members remain entrenched in gang culture. In today's special video, we will explore the realities of MS-13 members in El Salvador's prisons. But first, let's take a look at its prison. CCOT, or the Terrorism Confinement Center, is located in El Salvador. It started receiving prisoners in February 2023. By 11 June 2024, there were 14,532 inmates in CCOT. This prison can hold up to 40,000 inmates, making it the largest in Latin America and one of the largest worldwide. CCOT has caught the attention of the international media. The Salvadoran government has received both praise and criticism for its efforts to manage gang violence through this facility. Now, let's delve into the background. On 26 March 2022, El Salvador faced its deadliest day due to gang violence. That day, 62 people were killed. This tragedy led the Salvadoran government to start a large-scale crackdown on criminal gangs. President Nayib Bukele declared a state of exception. This allowed the government to suspend certain laws and rights for the public good. Over the next 7 months, more than 55,000 people were arrested. This massive roundup was possible because the state of exception curtailed certain constitutional rights. The high number of arrests led the government to announce a new prison in July 2022. This was also to reduce overcrowding in other prisons, like the one in Zacatecoluca. By January, over 62,000 people had been arrested during the crackdown. The government also made provisional detention periods indefinite. This meant they could keep suspected gang members in custody before conviction for an unspecified time. Also, children as young as 12 could now be tried for gang membership. By November 2022, about 1,600 children had been arrested under this law. The CCOT prison facility itself is quite large. The entire plot covers 410 acres. The physical complex takes up around 57 acres. It was built in an isolated area, away from urban centers and public institutions. This location helps to prevent any contact with the outside world. The prison even has its own water and electricity systems, making it self-sufficient. The facility includes 8 cell blocks that cover approximately 50,000 square meters. The construction contract was given to 2 Salvadoran firms, Omni and DISA, and a Mexican firm, Contratista General de America Latina S.A. de CV. CCOT represents a significant effort by the Salvadoran government to combat gang violence. However, it has sparked a lot of debates. Some praise the government for taking strong action against crime. Others criticize the potential human rights violations involved. The state of exception and indefinite detentions are particularly controversial. These measures have raised concerns about the suspension of constitutional rights. The treatment of children in this crackdown is also a major point of concern. Upon entering CCOT, inmates go through a thorough security screening. This applies to everyone entering the prison, not just inmates. They have to pass through advanced X-ray technology. This technology is designed to prevent any illicit objects from getting inside. Guards also ask non-inmates if they have any tattoos. This is part of the effort to maintain strict security. Inmates being transferred to CCOT undergo a detailed registration process. Their personal information and criminal history are recorded. The prison employs constant video surveillance throughout the entire compound. There is a fully stocked armory with firearms and riot gear. The prison is surrounded by a fence with a 15,000-volt capacity. This helps to ensure that the facility remains secure. The entrance to the prison is heavily guarded by soldiers and police officers. Within the 8 main cell blocks, cells are divided into modules. Each module has 2 toilets and 2 washing basins. There are 80 bunks but no mattresses for over 100 inmates. Inmates can use the washing basins, but guards control the water from outside the cell. CCTV cameras monitor every cell. On average, each prisoner has 0.6 square meters of space in their shared cell. There are also solitary confinement cells. These cells have only a concrete slab for sleeping, a toilet, and a washing basin. There is no natural or artificial light in these cells. Guards can observe inmates through a small window. Prisoners are fed rice, beans, pasta, and hard-boiled eggs. They have to eat with their hands because guards consider forks and knives to be potential weapons. Prisoners wear white uniforms and their heads are shaved every 5 days. They are allowed out of their cells for 30 minutes a day to exercise, but they are shackled during this time. Prisoners can also work in the prison factory to produce fabric. Each cell has 2 Bibles for prisoners to read. They are not allowed to receive visitors or make phone calls. CCOT is secured by 1,000 guards, 600 soldiers, and 250 police officers. There are 40 inmates per guard. The prison has 19 guard towers, 7 on the perimeter and 12 inside. Each tower is staffed by 7 soldiers. The facility also includes resting quarters for guards, lounge areas with ping-pong tables, bathrooms, lockers, and a gym. President Nayib Bukele has emphasized the importance of these accommodations for guards. In a recorded tour, he highlighted that, in the past, gang members had luxuries like PlayStations and cell phones, while guards slept on the floor. This approach is meant to correct past mistakes in El Salvador's incarceration system. The Salvadoran government is particularly vocal about its success. The director of CCOT has stated that it is impossible to escape, and that inmates will spend their entire lives there. President Nayib Bukele's government often praises CCOT and their crackdown on gang violence. Bukele called it the most criticized prison in the world. On 20 March 2023, the Ministry of Justice and Public Security celebrated the 350th day without a homicide during Bukele's administration. The government regularly publishes articles supporting CCOT and their mission against gangs. On 1 February 2023, Bukele tweeted about El Salvador's transformation. He said the country went from the most insecure in the world to the safest in the Americas. He attributed this to putting criminals in jail and emphasized that there is now enough space for them. They cannot give orders from inside, and they cannot escape. His tweet was accompanied by a video showing the prison's massive size. MS-13 has been a central focus of the Salvadoran government's current crackdown. In 2012, under President Mauricio Funes, the government paid MS-13 $25 million as part of a truce from 2012 to 2014. This truce aimed to reduce violence between MS-13 and its rival gang, Barrio 18. The goal was to lower the national homicide rate. However, this truce sparked a lot of debate in El Salvador over its legality. Ultimately, the truce fell apart in 2014. Since the end of the truce, tensions within MS-13 have increased. Some gang members accused their leaders of keeping too much of the government payment for themselves. MS-13 also became more militaristic. They began attacking cocaine traffickers to control key passageways in the drug trade. This shift led to increased violence. El Salvador's current president, Nayib Bukele, brought the first 2,000 prisoners into the new high-volume prison called CCOT in 2023. El Salvador has struggled for years to control gang violence. Brutalities such as extortion, kidnapping, and murder have persisted since the late 1990s. These issues stem from the instability left by the Civil War, which ended in 1992. Many past presidents tried harsh crackdowns to reduce violence. Bukele, however, has taken a different approach. His administration has imprisoned tens of thousands, often arbitrarily. He has repeatedly extended a state of emergency, severely limiting citizens' rights. Bukele has also attacked and detained critics in the press. Under president's rule, approximately 65,000 people have been incarcerated for gang activity. This crackdown came after a state of emergency declared in March. following a spike in violence where MS-13 and Barrio 18 factions collectively killed 87 people in 72 hours. El Salvador, haunted by its violent past, including a civil war that claimed 75,000 lives from 1979 to 1992, has struggled with organized crime's impact. Gangs like MS-13, born in the US and later deported, thrive with weapons from the war, engaging in extortion, kidnapping, and trafficking. Bukele's government has faced criticism for negotiating with gangs clandestinely, undermining transparency. While mass incarceration coincided with reduced violence, critics argue this resulted from negotiations rather than Bukele's public security plan, never fully disclosed. With extended states of exception suspending rights like assembly, El Salvador now has the world's highest incarceration rate, around 2% of its adult population. President Bukele has touted the new prison as a long-term solution, isolating inmates from the outside world for decades. However, prisoners in El Salvador heavily rely on support from their families for basic necessities like food and clothing. The new prison is expected to be punitive, lacking opportunities for rehabilitation or personal growth. The harsh conditions include punishment cells where inmates endure total darkness and isolation, sleeping on concrete slabs. Despite some relief from gang violence and extortion under Bukele's rule, many Salvadorans live in fear of arbitrary detention. This sentiment was echoed by a Salvadoran taxi driver who expressed relief from gang-related issues, but admitted to daily concerns about being detained. And that's all we have time for today's episode. Now, don't forget to like this video, and also hit that subscribe button for more such content. Until then, keep exploring.